to another Star Wars What If reaction. Today, we're reacting to What If Dooku had visions of Anakin Skywalker defeating him, created by the Star Wars Galaxies. Be sure to check him out, links in the description. I cannot wait to see what he's put together this time, so let's jump right in.
What if Dooku had visions of Anakin Skywalker defeating him in Revenge of the Sith? That's our story for today.
Let's go.
Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
Our story begins on board the Invisible Hand.
Alright.
As Count Dooku has just left the Spire where Chancellor Palpatine...
So we're starting it off right off the bat in Revenge of the Sith, right before the Battle of Coruscant. Because he could have also made it so that he had the vision, you know, before this. But I guess he's going to have the vision right before the fight. Or, you know, some hours before the fight.
Palpatine is being kept prisoner, watching over the battle in space as thousands of pointless
So it's already started.
clones or droids shred each other for a cause none of them truly understand, Dooku thought. Dooku often had to compose himself when thinking about his master's grand plan, a plan of which he has been a part of for over a decade
Well,
now,
you won't be for
and
long.
These were the final days of it all. Soon, Sidious would be Emperor, Dooku would be his right-hand man, and Skywalker would lead a new army, an army of Sith. Dooku sat in a back room as he knew now that Skywalker and Kenobi were slowly climbing their way through this ship.
See, this is quite literally right before the fight.
Evil resistance of battle droids, and yet Dooku could sense their moves as they stumbled up to find Palpatine. Part of Dooku wished that they could bring Kenobi to their side instead of Skywalker, as Obi-Wan was far more mature.
Yeah, Dooku did
and he
like
didn't have
Kenobi.
that grotesque mechanical hand like Skywalker. Dooku shook his head to himself, knowing that a real warrior would have simply learned to fight with one arm. But he knew that his master was right. Kenobi was far too gone in the Jedi ways, while Anakin harbored a deep anger
Kenobi's a true
and deep
Jedi.
power in the dark side, and the galaxy adored him already. With his eventual turn to the dark after the death of Kenobi, the Jedi Order and the Republic would finally fall and be ready to be rebuilt. Dooku would close his eyes and was now imagining this future, trying to see a glimpse of it. But instead, Dooku began to see something else. He saw himself battling Skywalker, with Kenobi either dead or knocked out in the distance. And Skywalker was beating him? Dooku knew Skywalker was a good duelist, and every time the two of them fought, he seemed to get better and better. But this, what Dooku was seeing in this vision, was far different. In this sudden vision, Dooku could feel the dark side pulsing through Anakin, and in an instant, Dooku had both of his hands sliced off, as Skywalker then stood above him with the red and blue blade, and Dooku sunk deeper into the Force as the vision continued, and he waited for Palpatine to call Anakin off, but the call never came. Instead, Palpatine looked like a proud father, giving a more genuine, real smile than Dooku had ever seen in his years working and training under the Dark Lord. Through the smile, Palpatine urged Skywalker to kill him, and after the smile disappeared, Palpatine's words were laced with malice as he demanded that Anakin do it. And so Skywalker snapped the blades together, forcing Dooku to suddenly snap out of this vision and have to grab the wall to avoid falling over.
What's he gonna do now?
Was this the Force playing tricks on him? Or was it perhaps the Force trying to get back at the dark side?
Is he gonna expose Palpatine, or what is he gonna do?
For years of this darkness, Dooku didn't know, but he was now certain of one thing. Like Maul, Ventress, Savage, and others even before them, Dooku was nothing more than a pawn for Sidious's game. Of course, he wasn't part of the plans. Of course, he would be the tool used to turn Skywalker to the dark side once and for all. Once again,
coming to him.
Dooku couldn't help but feel admiration for this grand plan, but he knew it was time for him to take the step that all worthy Sith apprentices must eventually take. He must kill his master and ascend to becoming the Sith Master. But how would he do it, Dooku now wondered. And seconds later, the doors to the Spire opened.
Which is interesting, because Dooku's not a traditional Sith at all. Like, every single Sith Lord before would just not even call him a Sith, probably.
And the two Jedi entered. And Dooku suddenly had a plan. He contacted Grievous and ordered him to prepare a jump to hyperspace when he soon commands it.
Oh crap.
Skywalker and Kenobi walked over to Palpatine, preparing to free him, when Dooku introduced himself, flipping off the balcony to prepare for this duel. Dooku knew that Palpatine was beyond intelligent. It would take some distraction in order to kill him. And so Dooku ignited his red blade with the two Jedi together, and he began dueling them through the Spire. The three of them moved through the lower level, with Dooku forcing Anakin on the defensive, and forcing Obi-Wan on the offensive.
Dude, I love this because this is what he did every single fight he had against these two. He was putting Kenobi on the offensive and Skywalker on the defensive, which both was, you know, their disadvantages, because Kenobi was the defensive one, Skywalker was the offensive one. So he was both taking advantage of their weaknesses in order to win every single duel against them. So this is very interesting.
Duel in ways they were not comfortable with. Dooku knocked Obi-Wan away, spinning to the stairs as Anakin followed him up, clashing their blades together. Obi-Wan cut through a pair of super battle droids before joining the duel atop the stairs, and Dooku was already ready for them. Anakin lunged forward, allowing Dooku to kick him hard into the wall, and Dooku reached out, grabbing the vulnerable Kenobi with the Force, throwing him hard into the far wall, before lowering part of the balcony onto his lower body to keep Obi-Wan trapped for now. And Dooku made sure Obi-Wan's lightsaber fell into perfect position before he took on Skywalker. And as Dooku and Anakin were once more battling, Dooku was kicked off of the balcony, and he could feel Palpatine's pleasure in watching Anakin. This was good. He was distracted by Skywalker. Dooku backed up through the main area of this fight.
Is he gonna use Kenobi's lightsaber to somehow kill Palpatine?
Making it look like Anakin was beating him. And as Palpatine's head was completely turned away from Obi-Wan, Dooku made his move. He got into a lightsaber lock with Anakin, straining to hold the boy back, and Dooku closed his eyes, finding Obi-Wan's lightsaber with the Force, and in a split-second move, Dooku guided it through the air, igniting the blade, and it flew directly through Palpatine. The Chancellor gasped, and Anakin saw it happen. He broke off from Dooku and ran to Palpatine, as his eyes went from confusion to fear, and finally to complete blankness, as his body fell in 2 pieces to the floor.
Shit.
Anakin felt numb. The man he saw like a father was now dead in front of him. He couldn't save Palpatine. And Anakin dropped to his knees, and if Dooku wanted, he could have killed Anakin right here, right now.
But he
Dooku moved behind Anakin, and he ignited his lightsaber once more. This woke Anakin up from his dazed sadness, and he felt anger rising. The same anger and fury he felt when he couldn't save his mother. And Anakin turned to kill Dooku, only to find him standing with Obi-Wan's unconscious body in front of him with a lightsaber to his neck. Anakin pointed his blue blade at Dooku, and Dooku told Anakin that if he takes another step, his master will die. Anakin forced himself to remain calm, and he extinguished his blade, with the anger beginning to calm down inside of him. He realized that if Dooku wanted him dead, he already would be. So instead he asked Dooku what it is that he wants. Dooku smiled, satisfied, then used a bit of a force pulse to make Obi-Wan wake up and take in the situation. He still had a red blade at his neck, but the Chancellor was dead. Anakin was alive, but not exactly in a great position. And Dooku just asked them to listen. For all these years, Dooku never saw himself as a true villain. He was blinded by the war, by the need to tear down the Republic, and he was seeing now that he has become exactly what he swore to destroy so long ago.
Oh, I love this. This might turn out good for both everyone and Dooku and everyone.
He was the poison to the Republic, but it was too late to turn back, Dooku knew. And now he asked Obi-Wan if he remembered what he told him so long ago on Geonosis about the Republic being under the control of a Sith Lord. Obi-Wan nodded. He remembered that moment vividly, and it was something he and the Council often agonized over. Dooku gestured toward Palpatine, telling the Jedi he did not lie. And Anakin reignited his blade, angrily telling Dooku that cannot be true. That's impossible. Palpatine was his greatest mentor, as close to a father as anyone. But Dooku reached his hand out, pulling a lightsaber out of the robes of Sidious, and ignited it to reveal the blood-red color. Anakin yelled out that Dooku planted it there, but Obi-Wan told Anakin to stand down. He believed Dooku, and Anakin was forced to accept this as truth. Obi-Wan looked up, and he asked Dooku why he was doing this now. Why go through all of this just to kill Palpatine? And Dooku said he removed his own blinders, and he finally saw the truth. That he was nothing more than a pawn that had to be removed from Palpatine's
he finally sees the truth
in order for his new apprentice to step up. And Anakin felt a wave of sadness, embarrassment, and regret inside of him. Obi-Wan asked who this new apprentice was, and Anakin spoke up, saying it was going to be him. Dooku nodded, saying he knew Anakin would see the truth eventually. And now Dooku asked both of them to look at the Republic they are serving. It is beyond corrupt. It must be torn down. A new system must be created, with him in control. The Jedi just looked to each other, and Obi-Wan said, "Oh, I don't think so," as Anakin threw a light from the wall at Dooku's head, forcing him to duck as Obi-Wan flipped up, grabbing
This was a little naive, maybe, of Dooku, because him saying that, like, how does he think they're going to agree with him? Of course, Dooku would actually be a good Chancellor, right? Because he knows what to do right and fix. But no one, not a single person would accept him to be it, considering he has basically committed war crimes, been the leader of the Separatists, and all that other stuff, so...
and now things were reset as they were at the start of all of this. Anakin and Obi-Wan stared down Dooku, and the two Jedi moved in together, with Obi-Wan urging Anakin to stay calm, and Dooku drove a series of flashing
Don't kill
thrusts
him.
toward Kenobi's legs, drawing the Jedi Master into a flipping overhead leap, so Dooku could burn through Kenobi's spine from kidneys to shoulder blades. This plan was so clear in Dooku's mind that he almost failed to notice that Kenobi met every one of his thrusts without so much as moving his feet, staying perfectly centered, perfectly balanced, his blade never moving more than a millimeter more than necessary. And that's when Skywalker moved in on him, and Dooku found himself having a very bad feeling about this. Skywalker and Kenobi were perfectly united,
Yep.
and
Best
Skywalker
duo
was
ever.
all over him. His blue lightsaber whirled around, and Dooku's defenses were faltering under the power of Anakin's strikes. Dooku was being backed up, barely deflecting the non-stop onslaught from the two Jedi, realizing they were getting stronger while he was faltering.
Yeah, because now I think he's got Kenobi on the defensive and Anakin on the offensive, which he doesn't, because that's their strengths.
In a quick final move, Obi-Wan knocked his lightsaber away, and Anakin spun in, grabbing Dooku's wrist and cutting through one of his hands, as Dooku was kicked hard to the floor, looking up to see the blades of Anakin and Obi-Wan pointing in his face. The Jedi duo beat him, and Dooku took this split second to activate his comms and bark "Now" to Grievous. Anakin sliced off the other wrist, and a second later the ship tilted heavily, finding an opening, and it jumped to hyperspace.
Oh, great.
Anakin frustratedly moved in to kill Dooku, but Obi-Wan stopped him and said they'll need him alive in order to prove that Palpatine is a Sith. Anakin backed off, but he still hit Dooku with a forced push, slamming him hard into the wall and knocking him out. And he asked Obi-Wan what they do now. Obi-Wan said they'd find a way out of here, so they grabbed Dooku's body and began running back through the ship, heading for the hangar. But in the halls, Skywalker and Kenobi would soon find General Grievous as he emerged from a door with 4 of his magnet
Well,
guards,
they're beating
igniting all
him.
4 of his lightsabers with excitement.
Kenobi can't beat that himself, so.
Dooku, and he would prove his worth. But Anakin and Obi-Wan had other ideas, and Anakin's blue lightsaber ignited as he deflected the first strike from a Magna Guard's electro staff as the other 3 moved to encircle him. Obi-Wan flipped over Anakin, and he sprinted at Grievous as Anakin kept the guards occupied. Each guard's fluid yet mechanical motion was strong, their staffs crackling with purple energy. But Anakin spun and carved through their attacks, and defeating them would not take long. He heard Obi-Wan begin his duel with Grievous, and Anakin cleaved through the first guard with a sweeping slash, its metallic form collapsing to the ground. With a twirl of his wrist, he deflected another strike, and he brought his saber down on the next guard, destroying it in a fluid motion. The final 2 lifted their staffs at the same time, and Anakin force-pushed them into a wall, both of them exploding in a fire. Across the hallway, Obi-Wan Kenobi faced down General Grievous, his green and blue sabers spinning through the floor, as Kenobi was clashing violently with him. Obi-Wan's perfect footwork kept him just out of reach of the spinning blades, but Grievous pressed forward with his own flurry,
Yeah, Grievous
deflecting
is
his strike
strong,
and
though.
jumping up to the ceiling, digging his claws in, kicking Obi-Wan hard with his feet, and Obi-Wan had to wipe some blood from his nose, recovering just in time to deflect a new series of strikes.
Anakin,
down
where you
on
at?
him. Obi-Wan's defenses were formidable, his parries swift, but the intensity of Grievous's attack in these halls began to wear him down. Each block sent shockwaves through Obi-Wan's arms as he tried to find an opening in Grievous's relentless offensive, and he was retreating step by step. Anakin now turned his attention to Obi-Wan's struggle, sprinting across the hallway,
help him out.
launching himself at Grievous just as the droid general was about to defeat Obi-Wan. Anakin jumped onto Grievous's back and was trying to wrestle him to the ground. Obi-Wan looked up and shook his head as Grievous simply grabbed Anakin and threw him hard into the floor. Obi-Wan used a force pull to bring Anakin to his side, and the two Jedi ignited their blades once more, telling Grievous he has missed his chance. They swung together, and Grievous whirled to parry, but the combined efforts of Anakin and Obi-Wan quickly overwhelmed him. Anakin's aggressive attacks forced Grievous onto the defensive,
Yeah, Grievous is
while
done.
Obi-Wan, recovering his composure, struck at the gaps in Grievous's defensive. The two Jedi moved in perfect movements as they drove the cyborg general back. Grievous
Yep,
faltered,
he's screwed.
sparks flying as their sabers sliced through his
Done
wrists
for Dunzo.
until a final stab from Kenobi ended the duel, and the Jedi were left breathing heavily in their victory.
There we go.
Back on the bridge, the two battle droids that Grievous left in charge were watching the security cams when Grievous was destroyed. One of them looked to the other and said that Grievous said they were ordered to self-destruct the ship if Grievous was defeated,
Whoa.
and the other droid said that would kill them. And with a sad voice, the other droid asked if they were ever really alive as droids. The other one smacked him in the head, saying his circuits must have a twisted wire.
This is like one of those Clone Wars moments that would be funny because the clones are ordered to it, but then they're like debating, we don't want to die, and they won't do it.
then turned up the engines far past the point of their capacity. Alarms were blaring through the ship as the engines began to rupture and implode in upon themselves.
Oh, they are doing it.
Anakin and Obi-Wan looked at each other as the ship, still flying through hyperspace, began to violently shake. And without another word, they sprinted to the hangar where their ships were waiting for them. In the hangar, R2 was also waiting as the ship shook more and more, beeping frantically.
Oh yeah, R2
and
is
Anakin
here.
got inside. Obi-Wan asked what they do now, and Anakin held up his hand, telling Obi-Wan to exit this ship on his command. Obi-Wan realized they forgot Dooku, but Anakin said there's no time, and within a few moments, the ship violently shook again and was pulled out of hyperspace, spinning out of control towards a barren moon below them. Anakin gave the signal, and both Jedi flew out of the hangar and they made it out, but their ship spun out of control as well towards the moon. Anakin told Obi-Wan to brace for impact,
So
as both of their
can't
ships
get
entered
Dooku
into
with
the
them.
moon's atmosphere, and before long they crashed hard into the ground.
They survived though.
Anakin would eventually
Please.
be awoken by Obi-Wan shaking him,
Yep.
and Anakin was grateful to be alive. The Invisible Hand flagship was in many, many pieces, a few clicks away from them, fires burning all throughout the destroyed ship, and Obi-Wan said they're somehow still alive. Anakin realized he was laying on the ground,
Do they have
and Obi-Wan told
communications?
him that he pulled him from his burning ship before it went up in flames, and Anakin chuckled a bit before saying it's about time Obi-Wan saved him for a change. R2 would send a signal back to the Jedi Temple, and
Okay.
the Council would
Yeah, they got
eagerly
R2.
accept the call, as Anakin and Obi-Wan went over everything. Palpatine was revealed to be Darth Sidious. Dooku tried to take over the Separatists for themselves, and now both him and Grievous are dead. Windu asked if they have confirmation of Grievous, Dooku, and Palpatine all being dead, and Obi-Wan said they do for Grievous and Palpatine. And Dooku unfortunately could not have survived the Invisible Hand, crashing
Well,
into the
you don't know,
planet.
you know?
Yoda put his hand to his chin and thought, then said that the Jedi will have to temporarily take over the Senate. The corruption went much further than any of them knew, with Palpatine being Sidious. And Anakin spoke up, recommending that the Council speak with Senator Amidala of Naboo. She had been very suspicious of Palpatine for a long time, and if the Council comes to her
Yeah,
with news
true.
about all of this, then she can help ensure a smooth transition of power without Palpatine. Many in the Council wanted to pry on why Anakin knew this, but that was for another time.
He has
Windu told them to
connections.
stay put, and they'll have a rescue team to their location within a few hours. The call ended, and Anakin and Obi-Wan slumped against a pile of rocks next to each other, exhausted, but glad all of this could come to an end, and the two of them would spend their entire time waiting for the rescue team, just talking to each other. Obi-Wan knew how important Palpatine was to him, and Obi-Wan did his best to try and make sure Anakin was alright. And through all the
He's
talking,
fine.
Anakin came to realize that Palpatine was never a good guy at all. It was all a manipulation from the first time they met. And now that he is gone, Anakin can live happily with his wife and their coming child. And Anakin would tell Obi-Wan about Padme right now, how she is pregnant with his child, and Obi-Wan would encourage Anakin to leave the Order, at least for now. Obi-Wan always missed Satine, and he would love to see Anakin live the life that he never got.
Okay.
The Jedi Council would indeed go find Padme, and after revealing everything, Padme would bring Yoda and Windu into her coalition of senators that were working to remove Palpatine from power and end this war. Together, the Senate coalition with the Jedi Council would go into damage control with the rest of the Senate, bringing to light the truth, and the Jedi would guide Mon Mothma into the Chancellorship,
Okay.
as Anakin and Obi-Wan were brought home, arriving at about the same time as Ahsoka and Maul. After a few hours, Ahsoka and Anakin would leave the temple together
What's gonna happen
and
with
go
Maul?
to Naboo, where Padme was waiting for them, as they would live a new, peaceful life as the war was finally
sweet.
ending. And folks, that is our story for today.
Wow, that's a pretty nice story, I'd say. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10. It's a, obviously way above average story. Very nice story, good writing, all that. I love how it centered out Dooku first. It's interesting that his vision happens right before, and this still shows that he is kind of a bit naive here at the end, and that unfortunately makes him die. But very, very nice ending, very different from anything else. So 8 out of 10 for this What If. Let me know if you agree with that rating and what you would rate this What If out of 10.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this reaction, make sure to go subscribe to the Star Wars Galaxy for more awesome What If content. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an upload. Remember, a new Star Wars What If reaction drops every single day. Join our Discord server, the link's in the description. Also, if you want to support the channel and get exclusive perks, consider joining our Patreon. Huge thanks to all our amazing patrons for your support. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video, so drop a comment with feedback or let me know which what if I should react to next. Thanks again for watching. This is the way. May the force be with you. Till then, I will see you next time.
Hey, you didn't watch it? Well, check out the video on the left side of the screen, which is specifically recommended for you, or check out the playlist on the right of the screen, which contains similar videos to this one, made by me, of course. Hey, remember, subscribe.